Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Scrollberg and this is going to be a showcase of swords in 2025 in Albion Online. If you are a new player to the game or you wanted to try out swords and you never seen skills of them and you just want a bit of context, a bit of knowledge about where they are used, which are the good swords, which are the bad swords, this video is for you. I'm gonna show it in here. You don't need to care about my armor and other stuff. We're gonna be showing skills on dummies and I'm gonna be telling you what I know about these and where are they used. So basically the way they are displayed in my inventory is kind of the tier list of how good they are. So carving sword is the best almost everywhere. It is very good. Dual swords are pretty good, especially like solo or small type of content, duo, trio, stuff like that. Then Kingmaker is good and is very powerful in small scale, bigger scale PvP, like five people and higher. And then Infinity Blade is pretty good in this like higher numbers of player involved in PvP as well, so 5+ and higher. Then Claymore is pretty okay. It is not bad, it is not good. You can play it in solo, you can somewhat play it in small scale. It has its uses, but just in general it is more of a just pretty good item, pretty good weapon. And then there is kinda meh or bad items. Broadsword is mostly, generally it is kind of bad. It is used sometimes in solo corrupted dungeons, but otherwise its skill is not really good. Then Clarent Blade is not really the meta item as well. You will rarely see it being used. And Galatine Pair is just because you need to get all the charges for you to deal damage. It doesn't really work that well in like boom packs that clap where you need to decrease enemy max health. So it's not they are still used in larger scale combat, in ZVZ, maybe like medium scale, but they are not the prettiest at the moment, and there are many different counterparts to them, but they are still being used there. They're just like kind of very niche. So this is the big overview of how swords work and where are they used. Now let's look at their skills. So let's start with Carving Sword. So basically Carving Sword, Dual Swords, Kingmaker, these three are two-handed, Claymore two-handed, and Galatine Pair are two-handed as well. Even though they are like dual swords, they are still counted as two-handed. Then one-handed variants are Broadsword, Clarent Blade, and Infinity Blade. Okay, now which means that you can use offhand with them. Okay, so with Carving Sword, let's go and see as first basic abilities of swords. Just in general, they will be present on every and single one of them. The passive of you generate heroic charges, which increases your movement speed and auto attack speed on all swords. It stacks up to 3 times. Qs are the way for you to generate them. Sometimes like NWs can interact with those as well. E spells are most likely will interact with your heroic charges. Basically, here's the first Q. You have this like small blink towards the target. You see stats being generated on me, and then we are faster. We are attacking with our auto attacks faster whenever we do have these stacks, and this is pretty much it. And then you are using those charges whenever you use your E with some of these items. Some of them do not require your stacks. So with Carving Sword, you can see this blink and there is no stacks on me anymore. The E ability will become stronger with the amount of charges that you apply with it, like generally. And you can see that with Blade Cyclone, if at least one heroic charge is active on you, ability will consume 1 charge, dealing 200 additional damage. So it works like this. We have 1 charge. We use our W, no charges. So this is the general idea with swords. We do have this like single target Q and then our AoE Q, which uses a lot of mana. and it has like higher cooldown, of course. And just in general, it is okay to use it whenever you're farming mobs, but generally, if you're in PvP PvE situation, first Q is way more popular because you have this like small blink towards the target with some range, and it is just like, yeah, it is as you can see here we have 8 energy cost, here it is 14. The cooldown is the same, to be honest, but just in general, yeah, first Q is most likely the way to go. Then with our W's, so we see here the Blade Cyclone, we just spin and deal damage 3 times to enemies. It is a pretty good ability with some additional mobility. You can dodge with it, you can chase with it, you can use it as just a generic escapes as well. And this is very good, this is very popular whenever you farm stuff and even whenever you fight. If you don't need to if you are going to brawl with someone, this is the best, one of the best abilities, because they're all situational, of course, but this is pretty generally used many times with many different situations. Then we do have our interrupt. So bash the target, interrupting it, and then you can make, yeah, and just let's see it here. How it works. There you go. You interrupt the casting of the target, increases your auto attack damage by 20% for each heroic charge on you. So you will just, in general, if you have some charges, you will see here, and then you use your W, you then get the auto attack damage buff, which can go up to 60% increase. And yeah, it is mainly interrupt. It can be useful in some PvP situations. It is quite often used against bosses if the boss has very bad skill that you need to interrupt. Then we have our, of course, splitting slash. You just attack in this straight line and you root enemies, which is very good to chase people. So you just use it and people are rooted, you then you then close your distance. Then we do have Harmstring, which is more of a single target gap closer as well. So you do, yeah, probably we need to, I'll probably just first, yeah, read it. So you attack target, you slow it for 7 seconds for 25%. If you have one heroic charge, then you can use second use of the skill that will leap you towards the target and deal some additional damage. So first, let's get a stack, then we do this, and then we leap towards the target. So yeah, you can see it is more of a skill for you to get closer to the enemy. Then Parry Strike. Parry Strike is for you to reflect some burst damage, for you to or just to survive some burst damage. So you do this, you channel on one place, you reflect all the damage, and then you do this slash, which is, yeah, Parry Strike is used as well, but you need to time it very correctly. There are more variables to this skill rather than to Splitting Slash or Blade Cyclone. And then Iron Wheel is one of the skills why swords and carving sword in particular are very in high demand for all the gatherers. So this skill, rush into battle, increasing your movement speed by 10%, defense by 25%, grants you immunity to purges. So you activate this skill and then you use your boots, and no one can purge them off of you, which means that, and gankers quite often do that. That's why you can see carving sword quite often being used on gatherers, because you have you can use your Q on just small critters and get additional movement speed. Then you have blink on your E with with carving sword, and then you have this Iron Wheel that gives you immunity to purges, which is just like very, very powerful. Just in general, whenever you're brawling, whenever you're farming stuff, you'll probably be with Blade Cyclone. And then now let's talk about passives first, and then all the skills for each and single one of them. So Deep Cuts is passive. It's just every 4 attacks you deal additional solo target damage, bleeding damage. Then Weakening, every auto attack decreases damage the target enemy deals by 2% for 2 seconds, stacks up to 5 times, which can be very good if you need heavy debuffs on single target. This one in particular will be quite handy. If you, for example, are on some boss in PvE and you're struggling with your group to do that, or with yourself, the weakening can be a powerful debuff. Then heroic fighting, every 4 auto attacks applies 1 heroic charge on you. This is if you need more generation of heroic charges. For example, if you have E that eats them a lot and you really need them, but generally it's rarely used. It is used more rarely than other ones. And then increase defenses, every 5 auto attacks increase your damage resistance by 74. This one again, it can be useful, but mostly you will people use either first or second for some particular single target situations. Okay, now about the carving sword itself and why it is so good in PvP. It shreds damage resistances of enemies from 16 to 64 with heroic charges, and this is really a lot. It deals damage, which is good. It dashes you, which is very good, but it shreds resistances, and it is so-called pierce that is very required in small scale, in large scale. But yeah, just in general, you need mostly in groups you need this damage resistance shredding, and whenever you are in solo target, carving swords are very good for ganking as well, for like killing people in solo content, just because of how much damage after that you will deal with your E. And if you didn't see whenever I first used it, so here how it looks. So the dash is pretty big, it gives you mobility, it has pretty low cooldown, everything about it is great, so carving sword is just very, very powerful. Now, dual swords. So Qs and Ws and passives are the same. You need to understand that two-handed weapons have like higher attack damage, but you cannot really gain benefits from offhands, of course. And with dual swords, we have like this E ability that you leap, you are immune to crowd control until impact, you deal damage, and then after that, if you hit enemy, you gain pretty big bonus for attack speed and auto attack damage. You don't need any charges, which means that you can open with this skill. So you just use it like this, and then your attack speed is higher, your attacks deal way more damage, as you can see here. So dual strikes, dual swords are pretty good as well. They give you mobility, they give you a lot of single target sustained damage. Not as much in groups, but they are pretty good in solo, in duo, and stuff like that. Now, the Kingmaker, more of a small scale, mid scale, large scale weapons. You will knock up the enemies, and then you will slash them with the second attack. It depends on heroic charges how much damage you will deal. So let's build up at least a little bit of heroic charges, and then use this ability. So now look at this. You slash and then you hit. The first slash knocks enemies, the second deals a lot of damage. This is just a plainly burst damage oriented weapon that is being used for fast disintegration of enemies in larger scale PvP rather than like one-on-one. Now the Infinity Blade. This one gives you it has two uses as well. First, you get a movement speed while you're channeling. It increases all your damage that you deal for 5 seconds, and then you swipe your sword in front of you. You slow enemies for 70% for 2 seconds, and you deal pretty good amount of damage. So let's see it here. So there is this charge up, and then there are these two slashes. So that's it. This is the blade. It is pretty good as well. It's being used quite often too. So there's it. Now the Claymore has a lot of power. So you charge towards the targeted enemy. You become immune to crowd control debuffs and stuff. Then you stun the enemy and you deal a lot of damage. So yeah, again, but you need to have charges. It will be very good if you do have them. And now let's look at this. So yeah, this is your Claymore. It looks pretty cool. It is like cheaper version. It is not as expensive as carving sword generally. And just in general, you can play it. It is pretty cool looking. It is Claymore, just in general, the fantasy of it. Okay, now let's go with the broadsword. And the broadsword is lackluster. So your E is You leap towards the targeted enemy, so you need to have an enemy. You cannot just leap in any direction. You interrupt their spell casting, you deal some damage. The damage is not that high, and you need to have strikes. You need to have your buffs in order to use it. So this is the blink. It looks pretty okay, but to be honest, this weapon is it is mostly abandoned by the player base. It is not really popular. Now let's go with the Clarent Blade, and we do have Crescent Slash. So again, you see here that you do damage in wave that pierces all enemies, consumes heroic charges for one of the following secondary effects. So if you want to slow, you can apply 1 charge. If you want to silence, 2 charges, and additional damage, 3 charges. So let's go, for example, for the silence. And let's see here. So as you can see, the wave itself is pretty, it is not really that wide, and just in general, it deals okay damage. You can play with it, but it is not the most powerful, the most powerful or the most popular weapon at all. And now the Gallatin pair, yeah, mostly like ZVZ, very a high scale, big scale PvP item, because it decreases max and current health of all enemies by 10% for 7 seconds. 7 seconds is quite a lot. And you need charges in order to deal like at least some damage with it. So you first like stack your charges, do all that, and then now let's look at the middle one. So and then you use this. It deals damage. It lowers their HP. It looks quite cool. It resembles some boss abilities that are present in the game, but they are used only in some particular types of content, because if you're one-on-one, it is very easy to dodge this ability. You still need to stack all those things, and this like health reduction will not help you that much in 1v1 situation. That's it about the swords. I hope this video was useful, and if you want more content like this about every single weapon in the game, I will gladly do it. Just mention it in comments or leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. Thank you for watching, hope you're having a good time.